Barber Supply. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be comparing fading up with the guidelines versus fading down. Which is faster, which is easier, and which has more quality to it. So we're going to be comparing those three things. And as we're going, I'm going to be showing you the steps. I got my client that I used, half of his head that I did with the guidelines, and the other half I faded, from the top down. So I'm gonna be comparing. I'm gonna be showing you, the steps that I use, and then why I use what I use, the clippers that I use, why I do what I do, and then I'm gonna show you in real time, how fast it is. So both of them, they had its pros and its cons, but in this video I'm gonna be breaking down both of them. That way you can get a little bit of insights. But without further more, let's get into it. DFW Barber Supply. On my client right here, he's got a number 2 on top, so this is what we're going to be using. I've got both of my trimmers. I've got my Babyliss Boost, I got my Rebels, and I got my Andis Masters. And the guards that we're going to be using is only up to the 1.5 since he's got a 2 on top. So let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start in the back, and I'm gonna start from the back and work my way to the left with the first half, which is gonna be fading from the bottom to the top using guidelines. So as you already know, you come in with your ball line and then come in with your lever open. So I'm hitting it with the lever open on the Andis Masters, and I really like the Masters because of the blade that they have on it. It's a little bit thicker than most blades. And usually I'll come up about 1 inch, but in this case, I came up about 1.5 inches, just because my client has, 2 light spots on the left side of his head that I gotta, have enough room to fade into. That way we can make that disappear. So my first step after that is taking out the bottom line, which I come in with my Rebels, and that's gonna be lever closed. And my second step, which I'm already on, is lever halfway. And then my third is going to be lever all the way open. So on the Rebels, they have a 5-notch lever. And I usually don't use all 5 notches. But in this case, usually I use, the first notch, which is lever closed. And then I'll go halfway, which is going to be your 3rd notch. And then I'll go all the way open, which will be your 5th notch. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with using all 5 notches. I try to eliminate, steps here and there, but there will be times where I come back and I'll do some detail work, and I'll use the 2nd notch or the 4th notch and come detail my work and, take it all out. So here we are again with the 1st notch, lever closed, and I'm taking out that bottom line right there. And like I said, like the Rebels, I like those for the bottom line because of the blade. Same thing with the Master. I mean, not the Master. Same thing with the Wall Magic or the Wall Seniors. They got a pretty thin blade on them, also good for taking out the bottom line. So I always use, different clippers for different reasons. But bottom line, I'm always use, either the Rebels, the Magic clips, or the any addition on the Seniors. So bottom line, just, one tip is, don't move forward until you're satisfied with what you've done. Like if you're not really happy with what you've done on, your first guideline, don't move forward, because, you're just going to make it harder on yourself, and it's not going to go away. If you overlook something and, you think that I'll just move on with the fade and come back to it, like that's not going to go away. So go ahead and get this, step as smooth as possible until you like it. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. So as you know, the next step is going to be the number 1 open. And right here, I'm using my Boost because I really like their guard system, and I really like the way that the Boost clippers cut. They got plenty of power. And I'm going to go ahead and come up 1 inch, not a full 1.5 inches like I did, the bottom line. Like I said, like I did the bottom line 1.5 inches because, the light spots that my client has on the side of his head. So usually I'll go up 1 inch, but the main thing is you want to be consistent, with that inch. Like you don't want it to be thicker or thinner, like on one side or the other. You want it to kind of be consistent all the way through. So just make sure you run over it a few times, make sure everything's even, and make sure it's a, a consistent guideline. So that was the lever, number one lever open. And then usually barbers come back, with the number one closed or number one, halfway. But I like to come straight in with the point five, the half guard closed, and start taking out that bottom line. I feel like the point five, the half guard, will fade right into the number one open. So I come in with my number one, my half guard close, taking out that bottom line, softening it up, and then I start going midway and opening it up all the way to fade into that number one open that we just did. And as you can see, I'm playing this video in real time, so as you can see, it's coming out pretty quick. And the thing that you want to, the thing that you want to keep in mind is trust the process of the guidelines. As long as you don't get outside your guidelines, you'll never, push your fade up more than what you want it to. Just like right now, like as you can see, like in the top, it kind of looks like I got that dark area towards the crown of the head, but we're not done yet. Just trust the process, follow the process, follow your steps, follow your guidelines, and it'll work itself out. So here we are with our last and final step, which is the 1.5. So the 1.5, right now I'm just kind of keeping it on the head, just to knock off the, make sure that everything's cut consistently. So as you can see on the top, we still got a little darkness up there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that 1.5, open it all the way up, and just float my clipper straight up. As you see right there, I'm floating my clipper straight up into the number two. I'm not following the shape of the head. I'm just floating it straight up, and it's taking out that darkness, and creating a smooth transition from the number two to the number 1.5. So and don't worry either if if your number 1.5 close doesn't completely take out that line. So you can always come back with your one open, and which I'm gonna have to do anyway. So don't be intimidated, just follow your steps, and all of your steps are going to be the same. You're going to come in with your guard open. You're going to close your guard halfway, and then end up closing it all the way. So there we are with the 1.5. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of detail work that I need to transition from the one open to the 1.5 close. So I'm coming back with my one open, and I'm just gonna detail, in between, and create a smoother transition, So this is using the guidelines, and to be honest, when I was cutting, I haven't used guidelines in a long time, but using these guidelines right here, I really like the way the cut is coming out, and it's faster than what I anticipated. I really didn't think that it would be this fast, fading it. So guidelines, it came out pretty fast. It was a pretty easy process, pretty fast, and it's looking real good. So I don't have nothing bad to say about using the guidelines. The time that it took me, it was pretty quick. The quality of the cut is real good, and it was pretty much easy. It was real easy to do. So we're gonna continue to compare. We're gonna do the other side, and we'll compare the time versus the quality versus the difficultness. So this is fading from the top down. So what we're doing is we're gonna start from the top and work our way down. So I'm coming in, and the steps are all gonna be opposite than what we just did. So how 1.5 open was our last step, that's gonna be our first step on this side. So 1.5 open, we're taking it straight up. We're going against the direction of the hair growth. And we're just blending right into that number two, starting from the top down, starting to fade from the top down. So I come in with my 1.5 open, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the 1.5, and just fade into what I just cut right now. So the thing about fading from the top, it's got its pros and its cons. So the good thing about it is that you don't have to use all your notches on your lever. All I use is open and close. I don't even use the halfway, the third notch. I don't even use that when I'm fading from the top down. So that's the good thing about it. The bad thing about it, and the thing that makes it a little bit more difficult, is you have to visualize the fade more, fading from the top down, because you don't have guidelines. You just got to kind of know your clipper, know what you're cutting, and know where to stop. Like there's not a guideline that shows you where to stop on, the one open or the one close, and then, like, you got to be able to visualize it. So I would say this one, fading from the top down is a little bit more difficult, just because you got to kind of visualize. So here we are with the one. I already ran the one open, and now I'm running the one close. My next step, I'm gonna come with the half guard open, half guard close, and then to the bottom line. So like I said, like, on the difficultness, I would say this one's a little bit more difficult than guidelines, because guidelines, you got a line to, for you to stay within. With this, you don't. It's almost like bowling. Like, you don't have the side rails up on this right here. It's if you go off too much to the side, you're going in that gutter. So there ain't no training wheels on this right here. It's strictly freestyle. So half guard right here, open and close, and we're just working our way down. Working our way down. So as you can see, the fade's coming out pretty clean also. This is in real time also, so it's going pretty quick. It's going to be interesting to see which one is quicker, because like I said, I haven't used guidelines in a long time. Usually I'll fade from the top down, or I'll use, clipper over comb a lot. But it's going to be interesting. Both of them are going pretty quick. Now here we go with the Rebels lever open. And I really, in this step, I'm gonna be honest, I really should have came in with my masters open, because that's my in between step. When we first started the other side, I started with the masters open, and then started taking out the bottom line. But I felt like I could take this bottom line out with my Rebels, but as I'm doing it right now with the lever open, it's kind of creating, another line in between the lever open and the half guard close. So I'm gonna have to come back with the Andis Masters to take that out. I should have just did it from the very beginning, but I mean, hey, sometimes you try stuff, and if it doesn't work, like you can always come back and clean it up. It's no big deal. And that's the good thing about barbering is, if you know what you're doing, and you're good at what you do, like, there's no such thing as messing something up. I mean, you can always pretty much fix something, unless you really, really mess something up. So we came in with the lever open on the Rebels, and now we're working on lever close, taking out that bottom line and finishing up, the bottom part of it. And like I said, I'm gonna have to come back with my Andis Masters and complete the transition. So like I said, just be consistent. Try not to overthink it or anything. Like, there was times when I first started where I would get lost in the fade, but now knowing what I know now, it's hard to get lost in the fade. Like, you can literally just look at a haircut and know what it needs. There's no such thing as getting lost in the fade. It's almost like your neighborhood. Like, if you live there for so long, there's no such thing as getting lost in your neighborhood. You know where you're at. So same thing with this, with cutting hair. Like, you can look at something and be like, oh, well, I need to take care of this. I need to do that. So here I am with my Andis Masters, completing the transition from the Rebels lever open to the .5 guard close. And we're completing the transition, from the bottom. So it's coming out pretty clean, coming out pretty quick. It's gonna be a close race. It's gonna be a real, real tight race. So I'm excited to see what happens. But I always pay attention to detail. You're gonna have a few spots that are a little bit darker or whatever, and that's where you know, come in with the corner of your clipper and detail those spots, you know. So all right, so here it is. It's for fading from the top down versus fading from the bottom up. So as you can see, both sides look pretty good, pretty smooth, pretty solid fade. All right, so here goes the results. So let's talk about time. The first one, the which is fading from the bottom, which is this side right here, fading from the bottom to the top in guidelines. This side took 7 minutes and 48 seconds. 7 minutes and 48 seconds. This side over here, fading from the top down, took 6 minutes and 42 seconds. So we're looking at about a minute. Let's just call it a minute. We're looking at 1 minute. So on time, the fading from the top down was a minute faster. So nothing significant, nothing outrageous or anything. To be honest with you, I thought it was gonna be a bigger difference than that. But 1 minute, you know, 1 minute faster. If you do a whole head, I mean, you can add another minute for the other side. It's probably about 2 minutes faster, you know. So um, time, I gotta give it to fading from the top down. Now quality, I kind of like the guidelines a little bit better, you know, because there it stayed pretty consistent. I stayed within my guidelines, and the fade came out pretty smooth. So for the quality, I'm gonna have to give that one to the guidelines. Okay, so which one was easier? The easier one to do, I'm gonna have to also give that to guidelines. So the guidelines was a little bit easier to do, you know, because like I say, you don't have to visualize fading from the top down, you know. Guidelines, you know, you got your steps, you know to stay within your guidelines, you know, to fade, don't move on until you're satisfied with, that guideline right there, fading it out, and if you stick with the guideline and trust the process, it's a lot easier. It's kind of hard to mess up, so I'm gonna have to say with the guidelines, it took two of the three categories that we compared, which was time, quality, and which is easier. Which one's easier? Which one's better? And which one's faster? So there it is, DFW Barber Supply.